To do this civilization making, we are able to drink from wells we have not dug. We all drink from wells we have not dug. We are always benefiting from the work of others who went before us, their creativity, their discoveries, their achievement, and their labor. Today, with this commencement, we celebrate this fact by inviting Dean Emeritus Harold Cohen to receive the Dean's Medal. All of you in the graduating class and all of your colleagues in the student body, the faculty and staff, have all drunk from the well that Harold dug. Harold, please join me at the podium. Dean Cohen was the second dean of the School of Architecture and Environmental Design, as we were called back then, serving roughly a decade from 1974 to 1984, leading the school from a rambunctious childhood through adolescence, more references to Bob the Builder, all the way to what we think is some maturity. He led the move to Hayes Hall, established the Architecture and Planning Library, founded the Friends of the School, built a faculty of renown, gave us our shop, and guided both departments to their first professional accreditations. He also, not by the way, taught the graduate studio that framed the concept for the recreation of downtown Buffalo's theater district, setting a standard for scholarship in the public interest and changing the course of history in our community. Everyone who attends performances at Shea's Performing Arts Center owes a debt to Harold Cohen, who helped save it from the wrecking ball in the late 1970s. We drink from wells we have not dug. Now, Harold, I'm going to give you this medal, but I want you to understand that it's not the same medal that you gave Bucky Fuller.
It's not solid.
It's not solid, gold. Harold tells me that he gave the first Dean's Medal to R. Buckminster Fuller, and that it was solid gold. Those of you who are worried about the budget should understand that Harold isn't getting a solid gold medal. When Bucky got his gold medal, he spoke for 3.5 hours. Harold promises me 5 to 7 minutes. I think it's not gold. We didn't buy enough time.
Should I take my hat off?
I think you better take the hat off. In fact, you can leave it off.
I think I'll leave it. I was asked to talk about the past, warts and all, and I will, but I won't give you too many warts because, as anybody knows, a growing organism has many warts. Remember the Christmas story? The author, Charles Dickens, talked about the two ghosts, the ghosts of the past and the ghost of the future. I am not a ghost, but there are ghosts from the past that made this school very great. Some of them are Gunther Schmidt, Ibrahim Jamal, Mike Brill, George Anslavicius, Attila Bilgatai, Peter Aina Banham, Magda McHale, and many, many other part-time faculty. As Bob pointed out, when I took the deanship, the school was called Architecture and Environmental Design, and it was housed on half of the floor of the Buffalo Meter Building on Main Street. We eventually took over the entire building, and thereafter, with the help of President Robert Ketter, we left the Buffalo Meter Building and occupied 2 buildings on the South Campus. When I arrived, the school had 1 secretary and 4 extensions. The faculty taught mostly at night. There were 90 students. And like any faculty or family, there were squabbles, but not about issues of principles or design, just about space and money, which apparently will keep going on for now. When I came to Buffalo to be interviewed for the deanship, the president and the faculty, I asked Douglas Turner Some of you won't know him, but he was the editor of the now defunct newspaper, the Courier Express. And I asked Louis Harriman, the community director of one of the large banks and from the Harriman family, to call a luncheon so I could talk to the people, the bankers, the industrialists, all the people that were interested in building Buffalo, because I wanted them to know what we needed to do together. And so they called a meeting at the Buffalo Club, which was very fancy in those days. At that luncheon, I told the group that I needed their support. I pointed out that our school, as with the medical school, community involvement is essential in preparing our graduates to understand and enter their field. Housing, environmental issues, and social problems are the elements which, when understood, create an important part of our students' education. The community is our client. One has to learn how to listen, observe, and hopefully understand the issues and problems which face the people who live in their community. Typically, most of the school students' assignments are given by the professor. In the real world, a functional analysis of all factors impinging on the community helps the students to understand and focus the complexity of each. Laszlo Moholy-Nagy said, a problem well stated is the start of its solution. I also asked Robert Traynor Coles, a local practicing architect, to help me to know the community. Through him, I made lasting relationships and friendships with William Gator, head of the Build Academy, Professor Jesse Nash, a sociologist whose family had assisted many of the runaway slaves into Canada, and Leroy Coles, who was then the head of the NAACP. When I came to Buffalo as the new dean 37 years ago, I could hire faculty and staff members without the analysis and inquisition of a committee appointed by the vice president or the provost. It was the responsibility of the dean, with consultation of the faculty, to select and hire the school staff and faculty. The faculty was responsible for selecting the students. The dean could also override the faculty in their selection of students and select 2 students that he believed were special. I used that prerogative many times. In the beginning of my tenure as dean, Gunter Schmitz introduced me to his visiting friend and colleague, Bill Huff. We talked, and Bill showed me his work and the work of his students. 2 hours later, I invited Bill Huff to join the faculty. Without a committee, I hired George Anslavicius, then chairman of the School of Design at Harvard, to become the new chairman of architecture. I hired Peter Rayner Banham from the University of London to become chairman of the newly created Design Studies department. I brought Magda McHale from the University of Texas to continue her research in futures. I brought Attila Bilgatai from Harvard and many others. 28 years ago, very important, 28 years ago, I brought Professor Linda Schneekloth and Professor Robert Shibley into the faculty of SAED, as it was called then. I am very, very happy about the decision because the right person now occupies the dean's chair. I was also fortunate to bring to the school Professor Al Price, architect planner, and appoint him as my associate dean. Before I became dean, the previous dean did not believe we needed our own library. I did not agree. I used half of my office space, hired a part-time librarian, and started our library. The Friends of the School of Architecture, especially Jim Diet and Robert North, helped raise the money to buy books that are now in your library. Also, the Lockwood Art librarian, Florence De Luisa, allowed me to select and remove books from the main library and I felt were relevant to our cause. Subsequently, President Ketter, Robert Ketter, gave me funding from the library budget to have our own full-time librarian plus assistants. After 10 years of deanship, the school was on its way to becoming one of the strongest schools at UB and nationally and internationally known. I stepped down to teach in the newly created Department of Design Studies. As dean, I had always taught one studio and one lecture course each year. I firmly believe that the dean must maintain contact not only with the faculty, but with the students, who are our most important human resource. I am a teacher, and I'm also a student. A good school is not determined by the size and shape of its building, but by the quality of its faculty and students. When my children were young, they kept on asking what I was doing. They had to describe their father's profession at school. You know, what does your father do? I told them to write teacher. I was lucky growing up in Brooklyn's public schools, and after my service in the Navy, to find the Institute of Design in Chicago, then called the New Bauhaus. At ID, I was taught how to think about human problems that can be resolved through design. But most importantly, they taught me about values that are essential for my very existence as a person and how to use my abilities in working with people to help solve problems in concert. The director of the Institute of Design then was Laszlo Moholy-Nagy, who said, "Design is not a profession, but an attitude." I was lucky. I was a very confused young man of 21 who entered the most stimulating and productive environment of my entire life. My most important teacher at ID was John Wally, who had been hired away from the art directorship of the WPA to teach basic workshop. That man changed my life. He said, "You are what you want to be. You are what you want to be." That's very clear and very frightening. I learned to listen as well to push ahead on things that I believed in. I never say yes if I mean no. Here comes a couple of warts. Sometimes after I returned to the faculty to teach in the Department of Design Studies, the dean and the faculty voted to absorb this department into the Department of Architecture. Most of the faculty voted yes. I voted no and left the school and was accepted into the faculty of the medical school. President William Greiner gave me 3,600 square feet in the medical school. He also funded a secretary and gave me funds so I could start a 2-year new graduate class. I selected 10 students every 2 years to work and study with me and with others. They had earned their bachelor's degree from various disciplines. I supported almost all of them during my 10 years teaching and directing this program from my research funds. The students graduated with a Master of Arts in Humanities. I retired at 65. At 75, I stopped teaching at the medical school and opened my own studio downtown Buffalo. During the last 25 years, I have visited this school only 5 times. I never support or participate in a philosophy that I do not believe in. Now, in 2011, I have faith that your new dean, Robert Shibley, will create a new and special environment for the school, an environment which I can once again believe in. My old friend and colleague, R. Buckminster Fuller, said he did talk a lot, but at the end he didn't talk too much because he had to go to the bathroom. The possibility of the good life depends upon the possibility of realizing it for all people. And this is a function of society's ability to turn the energies of the universe to human advantage. Congratulations to you and your family, and thank you for listening.
You can always trust Harold to speak his mind and create new challenges for all of us, I think. Thank you, Harold, very much, and congratulations on your award. We drink from wells we have not dug. That's the theme of these awards, and Harold has been digging deep and well-founded wells for a long time. There are a number of folks who have differing opinions. Those he listed as friends and colleagues also did combat daily with Harold, as did I. And I'm pleased to be still standing. Let me suggest that we go on now to say to you that, that we want to celebrate this idea that we not only drink from wells that other people dig, but that we actually are engaged in the digging of such wells ourselves. To celebrate this idea, I've also invited today Barbara Campagna to join us and to also receive the Dean's Medal. She has dug and is digging new wells from which we will all someday drink. And Barbara, would you join me at the podium, please? Barbara's a 1984 graduate of the Department of Architecture here at UB, where she went on to earn her master's degree in architecture at Columbia University and on to a distinguished career as a specialist in architectural history, historic preservation, and green building technologies. She led the Landmark Society of the Niagara Frontier, worked in private practice as a preservation officer for the federal government, and most recently, Barbara was the chief architect for the National Trust for Historic Preservation. In that capacity, she oversaw stewardship of 29 of the nation's most precious built work. Barbara Campagna has become, in the words of the College of Fellows at the American Institute of Architects, to which she was inducted in 2009, the leading national architect and policymaker for the integration of preservation values into green building practices. She's returned to her hometown this year to establish Barbara A. Campagna Architecture and Planning. While she has accomplished so much, it seems like her best work must still be ahead of her. We believe that here at the school and have engaged her to help us frame what we believe will become the School of Architecture and Planning's programs in sustainable historic preservation, starting with continuing education programs, leading to certificate programs, and eventually leading to a Master of Science specialization in architecture. We drink from wells we have not dug. We dig wells from which others will drink. Barbara, in recognition, sorry, I got to get your almost gold medal out. In recognition of your steadfast work on behalf of the architectural legacy of the nation and your path-breaking work in the integration of two streams of knowledge, preservation and sustainability, vital to our continuing collective efforts in placemaking and city-making, I'm pleased to recognize and honor you with the School of Architecture and Planning Dean's Medal for 2011.
Thank you, Dean Shibley. Certainly 27 years ago when I sat in your place, I never imagined that I would be sharing the platform with Dean Shibley, who was the chair of my program, and Dean Cohen, who was the dean when I was at school. I have had and continue to have the most astonishing career. I love being an architect. I can't imagine being anything else. I am so thankful every day for what I have. I just came here this morning from the AIA convention in New Orleans, and I'm such an architecture nerd that nothing gets me more jazzed than spending a week with 20,000 other architects. And I have had such an astonishing career because I had the good fortune to grow up and go to school in this mecca for architecture, Buffalo, New York, where superb design and planning permeates everything. My 4 years at UB showed me that inquiry, critical thinking, and creativity went hand in hand, and that camaraderie with your colleagues was as important as creating beautiful design or saving the beautiful places we already had. My best friend in architecture school at UB is still my best friend. Many of my professors, like Dean Shibley and Linda Schneekloth, at both UB and Columbia still play key roles in my life. The first recipient of this medal, as we heard today, was Arbuk Munster-Filler, and he said, "Now there is one outstanding important fact regarding Spaceship Earth, and that is that no instruction book came with it. No instruction book comes with your diploma. None came with my diplomas. I remember sitting here 27 years ago thinking about my future with great anticipation. I was a little scared, but mostly I had this amazing sense of confidence and unbelievable hubris that I was going to do fantastic things because my professors and my family didn't question me when I laid out my dreams for them. What my life and the choices I have made have shown me is that every dream is attainable. If you dream it and you set goals to achieve your dream, you can reach it. Take whatever risks with your career and your life that you feel you are able to take. Step outside of your comfort zone. You will not be disappointed if you take chances. You will only be disappointed if you don't. I have reached every professional goal I set for myself, and I usually had no idea how I would get there when I started, which means that I also learned how to be flexible along my professional path and never to say never. Today is both an amazing and scary time to be an architect or planner. Amazing because anything you can imagine can be built. Scary because the fate of our planet lies in your hands. You need to take responsibility for your impact and the impact of your work on Spaceship Earth. Alan Kay, a computer scientist and all-around genius, has said, "The best way to predict the future is to invent it." So when you leave today, celebrate with your friends and family. Have fun. You deserve it. You have accomplished an unbelievable achievement, graduating either with your undergraduate or your graduate degrees. But then tomorrow, when you wake up, set your goals, invent your future, invent our future. To paraphrase New York Times columnist Thomas Friedman, you have exactly enough time starting now. So congratulations to all of you graduates of the class of 2011, and thank you to all of my mentors, many of whom sit here today. Thank you.
As I begin my tenure at Dean, I'm inspired by these two examples. Both our honorees continue to dig deep for our future. In 2017, the School of Architecture and Planning that you are graduating from will be 50 years old. There's a lot of creativity and depth in our faculty, and the talents of our graduates have changed architecture, have changed planning, and they've changed the world. What do we need to do now to make sure the school continues to be a valuable cultural resource for at least another 50 years? There's a lot of Sullivan civilization making to do. We're reaching out in new ways at the school to raise the resources needed to build the kinds of programs that can truly be faithful to our mission and reconnect with our great college of alumni across the nation and around the world. And we continue to augment and further develop an exceptional faculty and improve the programs we deliver. Starting this year, we're building a new PhD program in planning and developing new research-oriented Master of Science in Architecture programs supporting advanced inquiries into the critical issues of our culture and ecologies that we've discussed today. Today, it's the duty of architecture and planning schools to push the boundaries of what it means to live creatively and responsibly on an increasingly fragile planet. It means to build a school that can deliver excellent professional education, innovative and creative research and scholarship, and substantive community engagement toward the resolution of socially relevant design challenges and planning problems, and toward the shaping of new civilizations. As we approach the 50th anniversary, we see many changes, yet one thing remains constant: a fundamental experimentation and innovation applied to the placemaking and world-making activities encompassed in regional planning, urban design, and architecture. We all share the responsibility to carry on our academic traditions in ways that matter to people. In architecture and planning, we work to promote the economic, social, cultural, environmental, indeed artistic regeneration of neighborhoods, cities, and regions where people live. In my first several months as dean, I've met several alumni who were here at the beginning of the school, before Hayes Hall, before Herald, even before Bethune Hall. They sometimes met in a bar on Bailey Avenue. As I understand it, it was the first home of the School of Architecture and Planning. Many of these folks are now in their 60s and look back at their participation in the startup venture as the most exciting and intellectually stimulating time of their lives. I wish you who are graduating will someday recall your time here now with the same fondness. But much more than that, I hope you'll find the engagements in life that will sustain and increase your excitement, in the work ahead, every day, for a lifetime. All the work to define the meaning of our collective responsibility to ecologies and to the planet, we push the boundaries of cultural and artistic expression in making and understanding the places we inhabit. We sound the call for the shared, built social environment to provide opportunities for all, not just the most privileged. In short, we take responsibility for confronting our shared challenges together, building on the legacies left to us, and leaving new legacies in turn. It is, for good or for ill, an exciting time to be alive. It's a promising time to begin a career, and there is so much to be done. To the class of 2011, congratulations on your achievements, and thank you in advance for your success in the future. The world needs you.